Hey everyone, welcome back to Hero Wars Guide. In this video I want to go over the revised Legacy of the Great Ones event as well as the changes to the artifact system that have just been rolled out. So starting first with the easy stuff, here on screen I've got Legacy of the Great Ones. These are the new tasks that we will see. And this event now is going to be in the Emerald coin format that we've seen a few times. Historically it's been kind of a hero themed event. But this one is taking on a little bit of a different direction where there's no one focus hero, but it will follow that pattern where there's the first task here where it's about getting points, and then all of the other tasks pay out these event points, and only the event point task is going to give you emerald coins, which then you can spend in a shop. And I'll go over what's in that shop in this video as well. Alright, but related to the event, there's obviously some big missing pieces. I don't have the payouts for each of these milestones just yet. That will be here in the site probably a few hours after the event goes live. If not, then at some point tomorrow. But then as far as this event goes, even without knowing the payouts, we can see that the costs are going to be quite staggering, with spend emeralds going up to 200,000 and get VIP to 4,500. These emerald coin events have often been the case in the past that you could complete them, meaning getting to this highest threshold of 14,000 without completing the emerald spend task. And so, in those cases, any additional spending you do after the final milestone has just been a total waste. But given how few tasks exist on this event, this revised structure, in two of the five, not counting the event points task itself, two of the 5 ways that you might gain event points are spending real money and spending emeralds. It seems extremely unlikely that the other ones are going to get you probably into the last several milestones here. But once we do have the details there, I'll fill them in. I would recommend coming into the event page yourself to see, how far are you going to get in things like leveling artifacts, energy, and opening artifact chests, and then, adjusting these levers to see where you want to get in the get event points chain, because it often works out to where if spending 30,000 emeralds and spending 60,000 emeralds is going to get you to the same milestone, then maybe you want to spend only the 30,000 and save the rest for a place where you'll get some additional return. Alright, then let's take a look at some of the changes to artifacts themselves, and the shop is going to tie into that in a way. So I'm just going to start here with talking about the artifacts, and then we'll move over to the shop briefly. Alright, so what we're looking at here is each tier of leveling up artifacts from the original phase of white, green, blue, on down to now the additional red phase. And so the first thing that might jump out to you here is just the staggering number of fragments that are needed to complete the red levels of the artifact, which will go from 100 to 130. This is almost 3 times the number that were required at the orange level to go from the beginning of orange through the end. And so that's staggering numbers, way higher than I would have guessed. And it is true that it does to some extent matter how many you're getting paid. For example, if every time you hit a red fragment on the artifact chest you get 100 of them, then it's fine. But I doubt that's going to be the case, just because there will be the ability to exchange these reds for 2 of the next tier down, just like there has been historically for each of the lower levels. So it would really kind of drastically alter the economy of the whole artifact tree if they were suddenly paying out huge numbers of the best tier. So I think in all likelihood this is going to be a very slow development, or very costly development. Alright, and before we get into the rest here, just with that 1600 number in mind, let's take a look at the shop for spending emerald coins during the Legacy of the Great Ones event. So here, column C is showing you how many emerald coins you have to spend and E and F is telling you how many and what reward you're going to get. So while I would have historically said that anytime you're given a choice between the artifact materials, coin, and cores, then you 100% want to go for coin and ignore everything else. But that's kind of out the window now for anyone like me who's been around a while, because these resource types are going to be really far along, usually ahead of skin stones and maybe runes and probably items, and most of what a hero needs. You're going to be ahead in these resource types relative to the new absolutes. So really these three pieces are the only things that you should even consider as existing in this shop if you've been around for a while. Alright, and then you can see it's exchanging at a ratio of 80 emerald coin to 1 absolute fragment of your choice of type. And we don't know yet how many emerald coins we're going to get out of this event. Hopefully it's a gigantic number because the cost is so high. I would hope that fully completing this event gives also an enormous number of these coins. But as an example, the Lars and Krista event that we just had gave us about 500,000 emerald coin. And so if that's the case, then we know the conversion ratio here is 80 coin for 1 fragment. So let's say if with 500,000 emerald coin, and then you get 6,250 of these artifact materials. And while that sounds like kind of a big number, like we just talked about, it's 1635 per artifact, and that's really not going to get you very far. I think that's something like 3.5, 3 3/4 artifacts. So 3.8 basically artifacts would be leveled in this event if it does pay out 500,000 emerald coin. That in 3.8 artifacts, that's really only finishing 1 hero. So if you're coming into this event thinking this is a new resource type and this thing's going to like catch up your whole main team, then prepare to be disappointed, or they would have to pay out really gigantic numbers of these emerald coins for that to be the case. Alright, so back to the artifact costs breakdown here. I'll throw in somewhere here that number of 6,250, which again could go up and down depending on the real number of emerald coins out of the event. But yeah, just to make a few more points onto how this new tier of red relates to what we've previously seen on artifacts. In terms of the power gain, this red level is adding, I think it's roughly 56 or 57% of the previous amount that you would have had at level 100 under a fully maxed out orange artifact. But on the other hand, the costs are several times greater than that 57% increase in power. So again, with these weighting levels where you can exchange them 2 for 1 each level down, these reds are basically worth 32 of the whites or 2 of the oranges, etc. And if you apply the number that you need and those weights, this number here gives you an idea of how each tier relates to each other, and probably most easily understood as a percentage. So if the total weighted number that you need to level up one artifact, that used to be 19,204, now it's 71,500, and most of it comes in just this new red tier, 73% of the new total. So the old parts of it combined are a little over a quarter of the new total, meaning that this new thing is almost 3 times as much as all of the different levels combined. That's what this number here is telling us actually is 272% relative to all of the other ones combined. So it's 57% of the power, the advantage to your heroes for completing this red level, but the cost is 272% of the old levels. I've heard people on the Discord talking about how this is this gigantic cheap power boost, but that's really not going to be the case at all. It will be a big increase in strength, but the costs are way out of scale. And this is something like 5 to 1. So I know there's a lot of mixed feelings out there for the addition of this new tier. I, for one, am very disappointed to see this. Anytime they add a brand new resource type to the game, that's by default 0% leveled up, and it's kind of a shame to see. If this was another level of power that could be added to artifacts and it was just leveled up using the same resource type that we had before, like more levels of orange or a bunch more chaos cores or something, then fine. But in this case, now you've got this brand new resource type that's 0% complete, and you're starting over from nothing in this category. And then to make matters worse, you're then throwing it into this game mode that already pays out a bunch of other mixed rewards in the form of these lesser colors, as well as artifact coins and chaos cores. So both any free-to-play activity and any spending that you do in pursuit of this red stuff is going to have really most of your efforts diluted into these other resource types that you, to varying degrees, may have already completed for all of your other heroes, or at least the ones that you care about the most. And sadly, that is probably also going to mean that despite the enormous costs of Legacy of the Great Ones, it will be a pretty good place to spend emeralds to get, or at least as far as it allows you to get to a new tier of emerald coin payouts. This, I think, will be a pretty important event to do well in. And that is some guesswork involved there, again, because we don't know the amount of payouts that we'll get of this red stuff from various special events in the future, from the day-to-day game activities of opening chests and expeditions and all of that. But it used to be the case that each artifact material was worth about 1 1/8 of an emerald. And that would mean for green it's ×2, blue ×4, etc. So for red, each red would be worth about 36 if that ratio stayed true. And that would mean that the full payout from the event of 6,250 times 36 emeralds apiece would be worth about 225,000 emeralds. But importantly, that doesn't mean that you can just take this many emeralds, dump them into the artifact chest, and that you would get this same number of red fragments, because the reward pool is going to be diluted across all the other colors and coins and cores. So you may have to spend a couple times this much emeralds to get that many fragments again, and you'd get a bunch of this other stuff, but if you're really far into the game, it might not really be worth much of anything to you. And again, these drop tables are obviously going to change since there's a new resource type coming out. But historically it was the case that at the higher levels of the artifact chest, you'd be getting something like 0.7, 0.75 fragments of each color per key. And so with this number of fragments being so very high to level up just one artifact, if that ratio held true, at the red level, then you'd need 1635 divided by, let's say, 0.7, 2,335 keys to get enough artifact to level up enough fragments to level up one artifact. And you'd ultimately, with keys at 75, that would cost a huge number of emeralds, 175,000. And, really that would be a third probably of each of the weapon, ring, and scroll. So for a whole hero, it would be that times 3, which will be 525,000 to get one hero fully done on the red. I'll reevaluate this stuff, once this has been in the game long enough to get a good sense of the actual drop rates that come out of the chest now that red has been added. but this is probably the ballpark that it will be based on a continuation of the existing trends. So hopefully we see lots of opportunities to exchange some of the older resource types for red or events that are giving us the opportunity to get reds by choice or as direct rewards, like we can buy out of the shop, or maybe things like Spooky Fest will start to offer a red artifact fragment option in addition to some of their older reward types. In CyberCon with the tiles and all that, I hope to see more and more chances to get this red stuff, since the direct methods of getting it out of the artifact chest are going to cost a fortune and contain mostly stuff that we don't really need, again, if we've been around a while. Alright, so sorry if all that came off a little salty, but that just reflects the way that I feel about it, I suppose. Alright, let me know how you're feeling about the artifact level, and if any of this changes how you felt about it. Alright, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.